Hi, I'm Chef AJ, and today I'm going to demonstrate some of my very favorite recipes from the annual Forks Over Knives meal planner. You know, even though I'm a professional chef, I went to culinary school, I've written 4 cookbooks and created over 400 recipes, believe it or not, I still use the Forks Over Knives annual meal planner. It's just a wonderful tool for getting healthy and delicious and nutritious meals on the table quickly. It gives me so much variety. It's completely customizable. So for example, let's say you can't do nuts or soy or gluten, you can just check those boxes and it will create the recipes for you that are within your favorite way of eating. And it's so great because you not only get a shopping list generated for you, but you can literally make half a recipe, you could double it, triple it. So it's really a very easy tool to use. The recipes are not only flavorful and delicious, but they don't require the skill of a professional chef to make. Now, you can print out each recipe, and I don't do this with every recipe, but I just want to show you that you completely can print it out if you like. But they also have this little thing, the QR code, so even when you're at the store, you can just take your phone and boom, you get the recipe just like that. They have new recipes every week, and Forks Over Knives has generously agreed to give everyone a free 2-week trial. So what have you got to lose? You know, I'm not able to put the exact written recipes in the show notes of this video because YouTube only allows a certain amount of characters and I wouldn't be able to fit them all in. I want to thank Forks Over Knives for making it so easy to get healthy food and delicious food on the table quickly, and to thank them for always supporting my work, the weight loss summits that I do, and giving out free annual meal planners, one a day, to a lucky participant. But you are lucky because you get to try it for 2 weeks for free. So these are some of my favorite recipes, and I'm going to start with a smoothie. This is a chai smoothie, and chai is made from a blend of aromatic spices, and I have all of them pre-measured right here. I also have my non-dairy milk already in the blender, and I did that because the recipe calls for dates, which I love to use as a sweetener, and I soak them for a little bit. If you have a high-powered blender, you probably don't need to do that, but not everybody does. So I've got my 4 dates already soaking in my non-dairy milk, and then I'm just going to add all my pre-measured spices. To that, I'm going to add my bananas, and make sure that when you use bananas that they are completely frozen if you want a nice thick luscious smoothie, and preferably freeze them without the peel on because it's really hard to get the peel off if you've frozen them with the peel on, and wait till they're nice and ripe because then they'll be sweeter. So I'm going to add my banana, and now I'm going to blend. And smooth and creamy. Then you have this luscious, delicious smoothie. The ice is optional. I always like to add ice to my smoothies because then it tastes more like a milkshake and it's colder and thicker and creamier. But here's a tip. If you do add ice to any of your smoothies, wait until it's the way you want it, because if you add it too soon, you're going to dilute it and it won't get nice and thick. So I'm going to add my ice, as much or as little as you like, or no ice, and then I'm going to briefly blend again. The more ice you add, the thicker it will be, and then it could almost be like a soft serve ice cream. I always like to pour my smoothies in a pretty glass with a glass straw, and you can see how creamy and delicious this is. And because this is too much for me to drink, I've got some leftover. Let me show you what I like to do with my leftover chai smoothie. I like to make chai smoothie popsicles. So I take whatever's left over into this clever little gadget, which I can link to below in the show notes. And then I just pour in some of the smoothie mixture. You can see how thick it is. Take a little bit of time to get down there. If you know you're going to make it just for popsicles and not for drinking, you might not want to add the ice because you don't need that thickness. It just takes a little more time. So you just fill it until it reaches the top. You could do the whole thing as popsicles if you like. It should make about 8 to 10 of them. But this is a great refreshing treat, and I love that it's sweetened only with fruit, bananas, and just a few dates, not too many, 4 for the whole thing. if you end up enjoying this as much as I do, always feel free to pre-measure your spices in advance, and then you can just pull it out of your pantry without having to measure each time. This is a great little gadget, especially if you have kids, because you can make anything into a popsicle, even just straight up orange juice or pineapple juice. So much healthier than the popsicles you buy already made with all that sugar and all those chemicals. This smells so good. I don't know if you've ever had chai. Sometimes people have it as tea or as a beverage. Often it has a lot of sugar and dairy in it. Not from Forks Over Knives. Looks like I might be able to get 5 out of there, so this is great. Or not, maybe 4.5. I'll just show you how to put the top on. There we go. I'm going to do my best to eke out the 5th one. That would be amazing. Just got to be patient. When it's this thick, it comes out slowly. Remember that old Heinz ketchup commercial, if you're old enough, Anticipation, where it took a long time to get it out of the bottle. Yeah, this is great. So that does mean that if you made the whole thing, you probably would get 10. Then you don't have to make it. Perfect. Yay. Real easy. So then you just put the little top on, and then it comes with popsicle sticks. You can always order more. Believe it or not, I ordered a replacement box of 5,000. So I'll be making popsicles a long time. As crazy as this sounds, a box of 5,000 was cheaper than a box of 50. So I've been sharing this with friends. And so then you just stick the popsicle stick in, stick it in your freezer for several hours or overnight, and then you have chai popsicles. So let me show you what the chai smoothie popsicles look like. I like to freeze them in a Ziploc bag because then I can write what they are on it and the date that I made them. And also because that way they'll freeze flat and not take up much room. And then you just take the top off. These look amazing. Most of the time they'll pull out, but if they give you a little trouble, all you do is push from the bottom and they'll come right out, I promise. There we go. Doesn't that look delicious? Oh my goodness. And then you just can put them in your bag. And then anytime you want a quick treat, you have it. I'll put a link in the show notes so that you can see where to get this if you like. I really use it a lot, especially in summer. It's so much cheaper than buying popsicles with sugar, and so much healthier too. And so there you have it. Thanks, Forks Over Knives, for another great recipe. So the next recipe I'm going to show you from the annual Forks Over Knives meal planner is broccoli with cheesy sauce. And there's a lot of recipes for non-dairy or faux cheese sauces out there, but this is one of the best that I've tried and actually one of the easiest. So the ingredients are Yukon Gold potato, cauliflower, onion, and garlic, and they have you cooking it in a cup of vegetable broth. I'm too lazy to get a pot and do it on the stove, so I actually just microwaved it and it came out perfectly. Nice and soft is how you want it, because you are going to add it to your non-dairy milk in your blender. Now, I personally don't buy boxed broth. I have this pet peeve of really trying not to buy cartons if I don't have to, just in respect to the environment and just all that packaging. And I'm too lazy to make my own broth, even though I know how from scratch. So what I do is I buy this amazing product from local spicery called Bada Bing Bouillon, umami, and 1 tablespoon to 1 cup of water, I have the most flavorful broth, and it's just doesn't take up as much space as having boxed broths, and it's really much more delicious. But really, you probably could just use water or any broth you like. And then the seasonings. And what I love about this recipe is it doesn't go crazy with the nutritional yeast. So many of the recipes for the faux cheese sauces have like a whole cup in there, and it's overwhelming. This only calls for a tablespoon and a half, and I really think that it's more subtle and actually even more delicious. So I put everything in the blender and blend. If you have a high-powered blender, you can blend it for several minutes and it will actually heat the sauce up. If not, you can do it on the stove. This smells so good. I've got my broccoli, which I've already prepared, and then I'm just going to, oh yeah, pour that cheese sauce over it. Look how easy that was to make. Ah, delicious. It smells like cheese. I know you're going to love it. So now I'm going to demonstrate one of my very favorite soups from the Forks Over Knives annual meal planner, and this is called pressure cooker chicken rice vegetable soup. The it really is unchicken because there's no chicken in here, I promise you. But it tastes like chicken and rice soup. It's absolutely delicious. So in my Instant Pot, I already have my water measured out, and then I'm going to add my diced onions and garlic, my carrots, cubed sweet potatoes, my rice, and this is uncooked rice. I'm using an organic brown basmati, but you probably could use any kind you want, and my chicken. Well, it's not really chicken, but doesn't it look like shredded chicken? What it is jackfruit. It's amazing. The texture is so similar. And think about it, I mean, chicken really doesn't have a flavor. It's what you put into it, and this soup has lots of flavor. I got this jackfruit in brine at Trader Joe's. It had salt, so I soaked it, but you can get it at a variety of different types of stores. You can also get it online, but you want to get the jackfruit that's not the yellow one that's very sweet that you're eating as fruit. You want to get this kind, I believe it's called unripe jackfruit, but this is amazing for a meat substitute. And then we're going to add the poultry seasoning. Poultry seasoning is a blend of all different kinds of spices. Usually it has marjoram in it, usually it has sage, celery seed. Most poultry seasonings have pepper in it, black or white pepper. I'm allergic to both, which is why I love using the spices from local spicery. They come in small batches, they're handcrafted, non-irradiated, and mostly organic, and I love these spices. So you just put everything in the pressure cooker. And again, I used water because the soup's flavorful enough, but you can always use vegetable broth, low sodium or no sodium. And then I'm going to put it on high pressure for 20 minutes. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done, and then I'm going to add my noodles, which are not really noodles at all. So the soup came up to pressure. How do I know that? Because it beeped 10 times, and I released the pressure using this cool little tool called a diverter, so the steam would go out sideways instead of up to the ceiling and on the cabinets. Very cool. I love it. And if you didn't want to release the pressure because you were busy, maybe you were taking a bath or walking your dog, that's fine, because it will come down to pressure naturally. But if you're hungry and in a hurry, you would want to release the pressure. Now the recipe also calls for zucchini, but I'm doing something a little bit different. Instead of cutting into cubes, I decided to spiralize it, because then it would be like noodles in my chicken rice soup. It would also have noodles. I'm going to show you how to do this very easily. If you don't want to bother, you could just do cubes of zucchini, but it's important that you wait till the soup finishes cooking, because zucchini is such a high water vegetable that if you pressure cook it, even at 0 minutes, it will turn to mush. Same thing with greens. If you wanted to add handfuls of spinach or kale finely chopped afterwards, you do that after it's done cooking. So the way to spiralize is with this little machine called a spiralizer, and there's so many different ones at different price points, but you basically take your zucchini and you put it on, and then there's different size blades from anywhere from angel hair to linguine, so there's lots of different options. So I'm just doing the one that looks like a noodle. If you wanted it to really look like a noodle, then you would peel it and then it would be white, but since this is organic zucchini and there's so much fiber and nutrients in the skin, I wanted to keep it on for extra nutrition. Really easy. It's so fun. You can spiralize carrots and beets and butternut squash. So I have my noodles. You can put in as much or as little as you like. And now look at this. Doesn't that look like chicken rice soup? The jackfruit has the texture and the mouthfeel of chicken, and it looks like chicken. And now for some added color and nutrition, I'm going to add my zoodles or zucchini noodles. And like I say, these will cook very, very quickly. And what's so cool is this soup is not just a vegetable soup. It's got lots of starch in it, from the cooked brown rice to the sweet potatoes, which provide so much extra nutrition and flavor with the broth. This, I know, will become one of your favorite soups. So if you get a cold ever, you don't need real chicken. You just need this soup. It is really a full meal soup. So let me just plate some up. I might even add some more zucchini, who knows? But look at how thick and hearty and delicious this soup is with everything in it. Oops, one of my zoodles got caught. You can always cut them a little smaller. But look at that. Whew, doesn't that look good? And these will continue to cook down. So I hope you'll try this. This truly is one of my favorite recipes in general, and especially from the Forks Over Knives meal planner. Enjoy. So now I'm going to show you another delicious recipe from the annual Forks Over Knives meal plan. This is called Easy Chewy Granola Bars, and it's a perfect name because it's really easy to make with only 5 ingredients that you probably already have in your house already: oats, bananas, cinnamon, vanilla, and raisins. And when they're done, they come out chewy. This would make a great grab-and-go breakfast. It's a delicious dessert with a cup of tea, and they freeze beautifully. So in my dish, I have bananas, and the reason these look a little kind of mushy is these are bananas that were already frozen and defrosted. That's why they look like this and are kind of brown and liquidy, but they're going to taste fine. They're going to be perfect. I just didn't have any ripe bananas, and since there's no sugar or refined sugar in this recipe, just from fruit, you want to make sure your bananas are really ripe. Sometimes when you're using bananas that have been frozen and defrosted, you might have to add a little bit more oat if it's too liquidy, but I'll let you know as we go along. So I've got my bananas, and then I have already measured out my oats, cinnamon, vanilla, and raisins. I prefer to use yellow raisins. I just like them better. I think they're sweeter, but any kind will do. So I just mix it together. I'm using a little potato masher until it's all incorporated. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then once this is incorporated, I'm going to pour it into a silicone baking pan. I'm using a 9-inch. An 8-inch would be fine. They'd be a little bit thicker with an 8-inch. And I'm going to bake them for 30 minutes. I mean, what could be easier? Seriously, that was so easy. And I think the fact that the bananas were frozen and defrosted made them even softer, so they mashed up very, very quickly. What's nice about silicone is you don't need oil. And what's nice about Forks Over Knives, one of the many things that's nice about them, is they know not to use oil in any of their recipes. It's not necessary for any kind of cooking, and certainly not good for our health. Forks Over Knives was one of the first movies that made people really realize that this was a great thing to do, not just for the environment and animals, but for your own health. And if you haven't seen that documentary, please make sure you do. It's fabulous. And if you haven't tried the meal planner, why not try it? Because we're giving it to you for 2 weeks for free so that you can get all these recipes. So we've got that all mixed, and I'm just going to pour it in my baking pan. Should get a spoon here to get every last bit out. I'm going to show you my drop and plop technique. There's a tool called an offset spatula, which I was a pastry chef for 5 years, a vegan pastry chef at a restaurant in Los Angeles that allows you to smooth things out really nicely. But you can also do what I call the drop and plop technique, where you just drop it and plop it on your counter till it all spreads out evenly. And again, you can use darker colored raisins if you like. What's fun about the yellow raisins is you kind of get a surprise. You don't know that there's a raisin in it. So you just want to spread it out evenly. Of course, you could use a piece of parchment paper if you didn't have silicone, but that's a little bit wasteful for the environment to always have to use a piece of paper. I've had this for probably 11 years, and it just works great. You can get these at many stores as well as online. So I'm going to pop this in the oven for 30 minutes at 350, and I'll show you what they look like when they're done. So all it took was 30 minutes and my delicious, easy, chewy granola bars are ready. I wish you could smell how wonderful my whole house smells, like cinnamon, vanilla. You know, I'm not really a fan of oatmeal. I don't like the texture, but when it's baked into these bars, perfection. Now you really should wait for it to cool. That is, I'm a former pastry chef. That is my best advice, but I know you probably want to see what these delicious bars look like, so you could get as many or as few as you want. I'll probably get 16 out of these. Let's see if I can get one out without it breaking. Yeah, it should be pretty sturdy. Oh, smells so good. Ooh, don't try this at home because, like I said, I was a pastry chef, so I don't burn myself. There we go. Oh, it's very important when cutting into silicone, you do not use a sharp knife or you could, look at that. Is that like beautiful and perfect? Oh my goodness. And you could eat this warm right now and you could enjoy it hot for breakfast, or I say, have it as a snack or a dessert. These freeze beautifully. They're so easy to make, and I bet you have all or most of the ingredients already in your house. And by the way, if you didn't have yellow raisins, you could make it with no raisins. You could probably use any dry fruit you want. Goji berries, dried cranberries. Look at that. Delicious and easy and chewy forks over knives granola bars. I hope you'll try this recipe and I hope you'll like it. So now I'm going to show you another one of my favorite soup recipes, Tom Yum Soup from the Forks Over Knives annual meal plan. So I have my soup pot already heated up, and we don't use oil, but the way you know it's ready is if you go like this with water and you see like the little balls kind of rolling around, then it's ready. We always want to make sure that when we're cooking without oil to have some water or broth ready, just because then you add a little at a time if you need it. So we're supposed to saute the mushrooms and the garlic and the ginger. Now, it called for shiitake mushrooms. My store didn't have it, so I used what they had. So we're just gonna saute. And this happens to be a non-stick pan, but if you had stainless steel or one that wasn't, you just add a little water at a time as needed, or broth. I'm just going to turn the heat down a little. So you want to saute the mushrooms, the garlic, and the ginger for 3 or 4 minutes. And again, adding water as needed. And always make sure every now and then you give it a stir. If you look in the pan, you can see I really haven't had to add more water because mushrooms are so full of water and they give it up during the cooking process. I wish you could smell this because just the mushrooms, the ginger and the garlic smells amazing. This could be a recipe. You could put this over one of your plant-based burgers. You could put this over greens, over rice. It just smells absolutely amazing, and I'm sure it tastes even better. So after I've sauteed the mushrooms, ginger, and garlic for 3 or 4 minutes, now I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients. Now it calls for some vegetable broth. I don't have any, so what? I'll just use water instead. That's okay. And then I'm going to add my coconut milk. I made sure to look for the brand that I could find that didn't have any added oil or sugar, that was as low in fat as possible. So I'm going to be adding the carton. I need to bring the contents of the pot to a boil. So I've turned my heat up to high. And now I'm going to add my green curry paste. And I was able to find a brand. I couldn't find one that was salt-free, but I found one that was pretty low sodium that had no oil or sugar, because some of them, believe it or not, do. And I'm just going to stir that up a little bit so that the paste gets dissolved. The flavors are going to mix nicely. They smell amazing already. And then I'm going to add my cubed sweet potatoes. I like to cube them big because sweet potatoes tend to kind of become a little bit mushy, so I cube them as much as I can, and my tomatoes. And so now what I need to do is bring this to a boil. And once it reaches a boil, I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer for 10 minutes or until the potatoes are soft. You know what they say, a watched pot never boils. So now that it's come to a boil, I'm going to turn the heat down and uncovered, let it cook for at least 10 minutes or until the sweet potatoes are soft. So now I've been simmering for 10 minutes. I just want to check that the sweet potato is done. It's nice and soft. How long it'll take depends on how big you cut it. And then I'm going to add, thank you, Alexa. That was perfect. I told her 10 minutes. Going to add the lime. Okay, Alexa, off. Alexa, off. I'm going to add my lime juice, my cilantro. I'm going to stir my, oh, look how beautiful this looks, just like a restaurant. Stir. Now you'll want to serve this over brown rice or really any of your favorite grains. And then I'll just plate up a bowl. Look, we've got the beautiful mushroom and tomato, sweet potato, and cilantro. And luckily, I always make sure I have brown rice on hand. There you have it, from Forks Over Knives Annual Meal Planner, Tom Yum Soup. Enjoy. So now I'm going to show you another delicious recipe from the Forks Over Knives Annual Meal Plan. This is called Korean Style Rice Bowl with an Asian pear sauce. So I've got my skillet on the stove preheating, and I know it's ready when I take just a tiny bit of water and the bubbles, little water droplets dance around. We're not using any oil. I have a non-stick wok pan, but you can use any kind of cookware you like. Don't use oil though. You can use stainless steel, waterless cookware, ceramic, whatever you like, whatever the best you can afford. And now I'm going to add my ingredients, which are onion and garlic. You can hear the sizzle. You really don't need oil even to caramelize the onions. And something you may not be familiar with, but even if you don't make this recipe, I encourage you to try. These are called Asian pears. Some places call them apple pears. And what it is it's a cross between the best of an apple and the best of a pear. And they're absolutely delicious. They don't get mushy like pears, but they have just a unique flavor, and they're wonderful for eating, but they're really wonderful in this sauce recipe. So basically we're just going to stir this, saute it till tender for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then we're going to go take it over to the blender and blend it with some other ingredients. And again, you can get all these recipes for free, written out just by doing your free 2-week trial of the wonderful Forks Over Knives Annual Meal Plan. Then we're going to blend it with the liquid ingredients and make the sauce. I've already steamed my vegetables for the bowl. I've got sweet potatoes and broccoli over a bed of brown rice. And this is to make my sauce. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water now and then. If you feel like it's going to stick, a tablespoon at a time, water or broth. So really I'm just trying to get the pears nice and soft. Not really trying to caramelize the onion in this case, but I want my pears to be cooked nice and soft. Such an ingenious use of flavor to use pears for a sauce. And again, I love the one bowl method of eating. You know, it didn't have to be broccoli and sweet potato. You could have used, you know, butternut squash and asparagus. Really, the possibility with bowls are endless. I'm really just trying to get these pears soft. Cutting them smaller probably would cause them to cook a little bit faster. Can never go wrong with onion and garlic. I can see that my pears are nice and soft because when I touch the side of the spatula, they just smush up nicely. So I am going to turn my heat off, and then I'm going to take this to the blender and blend it up for the sauce. I have my liquid ingredients already in the blender, and very carefully, so you don't burn yourself, we want to add the contents of the pan to the blender. It smells really, really good. What I love about nonstick pans is cleanup is so easy. So now I am going to blend this, and be careful when you blend hot things. You could also use an immersion blender because heat does rise in a closed unit. Does that smell delicious? Let me show you what I'm going to put it over. I've got two beautiful bowls, because we'll have this for dinner, with brown rice on the bottom, broccoli, and steamed sweet potatoes. So what I like to do is let people add their own sauce. Some people like a little, some people like a lot. And I like to put it in a squeeze bottle. And again, you don't have to limit yourself to this particular recipe just to make this delicious sauce. There we go. Now this won't be spicy, so I'm going to show you another option. But what you can do is just have this bottle, and then the people can, figures that would happen. A little probably didn't blend it long enough, so I'll just use what's in the blender. And they can pour on as much sauce as they like. I'll leave one unsauced. But if you like things a little spicy, you can always take a little sriracha over the top for a little heat. This is a SOS-free, sugar, oil, salt-free sriracha made by my friend Dylan Holmes at Well Your World. It's delicious. I'll put a link below if you want to look at getting it. And so there you have it, a delicious Korean rice veggie bowl with an Asian pear sauce. Enjoy. So now I'm going to show you how to make a brown rice wilted chard salad. If you haven't tried rainbow chard, it is my absolute favorite green. Look how beautiful it is. What other vegetable do you know that has orange and bright pink and yellow in it? And unlike some greens, which are very, very bitter, chard is very mild, it's delicious, it's naturally salty, and I'd really encourage you to try it. So if you're wondering why my pan is a bit dirty, it's because I just showed you a recipe, the Asian pear sauce, and since it's similar ingredients, onion, garlic, I didn't feel I needed to clean it in between, but I'm going to be doing pretty much the same thing. I'm going to start by sauteing the onion and garlic. I once interviewed a French chef, and he said all French cooking starts with an onion. Well, I think all cooking starts with an onion, and I honestly don't know how people cook without it. I feel bad for people that can't have it. And again, I'm using a non-stick pan. You can use any kind of cookware you like. I always recommend the best you can afford. And if things start to stick, all you really have to do is have a little bit of water or broth nearby, and then just add a tablespoon at a time. So we just want to cook these onions until translucent, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Now you can go longer and caramelize them, but we don't need to necessarily do that for this recipe. I like caramelizing them if I'm going to put them on, say, a bean burger or a beanless burger. So you can see in just a matter of a couple minutes how they turned golden brown. So now I'm going to add my carrots, which I shredded, and my sun-dried tomatoes. And I'm going to continue to saute. Never walk away from a pan on the stove, at least one that you're sauteing in. And if I feel like it gets a little dry, I always have my water or vegetable broth to add my liquid. Greens cook up really, really quickly, so those are the last thing I'm going to add, and then it'll just be minutes until it's ready. Look how pretty this is. You can almost hear how good it's going to taste. And again, because the carrots are shredded so finely, they're going to cook up very quickly. Just add the last bit of my water. It's kind of like steam frying. We're using the steam or the water to cook instead of oil. Oil is never necessary in cooking or baking, and I can tell you that because I was actually a restaurant chef for over 5 years in Los Angeles. Let that go just another minute or so. Just going to add a little more water. Smells amazing. I'm going to serve this over brown rice. I always cook in batches, so I don't ever just make a serving of rice, even though the Forks Over Knives annual meal planner can tell you how to do that for the recipe. I cook big rice cooker fulls, and I always have frozen organic rice in my freezer where I can just microwave it for a quick meal. So now I'm going to add my cut up chard. Look how beautiful this is. It's like literally eating the rainbow. You don't want to overcook your greens. They're going to cook very quickly. What I love about having this saute pan is it's more like a wok, so the sides go up very high, so things tend to stay in it. It's important to eat greens by any means necessary, preferably every day, even for breakfast. They have such high nutrient content, so low in caloric density, and they really are delicious. They make your skin beautiful. And this dish is beautiful. Where else do you see pink in food? Not like this. Maybe in dragon fruit, but that's about it. You can see how quickly this is wilting. That's why they call it wilted chard. And then while I'm continuing to watch this, the dressing is very simple. It's basically different vinegars and mustard, and so I have it already measured out, and I'm just going to stir it with my spoon because I don't have a baby whisk. My whisk would be too big for this, so I'm just stirring it together. And of course, you could mix and match, you know, that Asian pear sauce I showed you would be amazing on this, and any kind of sauce you like. These are just suggestions. So I've got that nice and mixed. Just a little bit more. And of course you can cook the greens as much as you like, al dente. You retain more nutrients when you cook them less. But you can see how beautiful this is. And now I'm going to add my dressing from my wilted rainbow chard salad. Does this smell great? So we're going to serve it over rice as a full meal, but you could certainly have this as a side dish. Now, I'll be honest, the recipe called for Kalamata olives. I don't have any. I don't live near a store anymore. But what's so great about the Forks Over Knives recipe is that unless it's the main ingredient, in this case the rainbow chard, it's okay if you don't have everything. So that looks to be done. I'm going to turn my heat off, give it one more stir, and then I'm going to plate it. I've got some brown rice that I've already cooked. And I'm going to place my wilted rainbow chard on top. Oh, it smells amazing. And of course, if you had more dressing or sauce, you could add it. And you can see how quick and easy these recipes are. So thank you so much, Forks Over Knives, for another opportunity to make a video featuring the wonderful recipes from your annual meal planner. And everyone gets to try it for 2 weeks for free. I hope you'll give it a try. Take care, everyone, and I wish you the best of health.